In 1953, the council told your grandfather he needed a permit to dig a hole in his own back garden. He told them where to go, dug it anyway, and that root cellar fed his family through 30 winters without a single electricity bill. Number 18 on this list was declared obsolete by the Ministry of Agriculture in 1962. Researchers confirmed in 2019 it outperforms the modern alternative in every measurable way. Number 11 was classified a fire hazard by local authorities in the 1970s. The organization that pushed that ruling was funded entirely by the companies selling the replacement. And number 4, your grandfather built it in a weekend from salvaged timber, and today the equivalent costs you £340 every single month. These 25 things were not abandoned because they stopped working. They were abandoned because someone got very rich the moment you forgot how to build them yourself. This is not nostalgia. This is the precise accounting of what was taken from you and exactly what it costs every month to have forgotten it. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button to Retro Britain for more forgotten history, unapologetic nostalgia, and the lost skills they don't want you to remember. Let us count down. Number 25, the rainwater system. Before water bills existed, your great-grandfather caught rain. Wooden gutters directed every drop from the farmhouse roof into barrels buried to the neck behind the vegetable patch. 1 inch of rain on a modest terrace roof delivers over 400 gallons. He knew this the way he knew the distance to market. Water bills in Britain now average £450 a year. That is £37.50 a month for water that falls free onto your roof. There is no legal restriction on harvesting rainwater for garden use in England and Wales. The infrastructure your grandfather built for nothing is perfectly legal to rebuild today. You just have to remember it existed. Number 24, the kitchen garden. Every working-class British home before 1960 had one. Not a decorative border, a serious productive garden that supplied the table from April through October. Potatoes, leeks, cabbages, runner beans, onions, grown from seeds saved the previous autumn in paper envelopes on the pantry shelf. The average British family now spends £3,692 a year on groceries. A well-managed 30-square-metre kitchen garden produces the equivalent of £1,500 in vegetables at current supermarket prices. Your grandfather paid nothing but seed money and Saturdays. Tesco did not build its first superstore until 1968. Before that, the kitchen garden was not a hobby. It was the difference between eating well and going without. Number 23. The smokehouse. Every farm had one. A small brick structure where hams, bacon slabs, and sides of mutton hung from iron hooks above smouldering oak sawdust. Cold smoking below 35 degrees preserved meat through chemical action. Antimicrobial compounds deposited directly into the flesh by the smoke itself. Your great-grandfather's smokehouse kept a whole pig edible from November through the following August. Not a single kilowatt required. The average British household now spends £45 a month on meat. One home reared pig properly smoked and cured replaced months of that bill. Your grandfather built his smokehouse without asking anyone's permission because it was his land, his pig, and his family that needed feeding. That logic has not changed. The regulations have simply made it easier to forget. Number 22, the cold frame. Before garden centres sold pre-grown seedlings for £4.99 a tray, allotment holders extended their growing season by 6 weeks at each end of the year using cold frames built from old window panes and rough timber. 4 wooden sides and a glass lid angled south. Inside, on a bed of fresh horse manure, generating its own heat. Seedlings germinated in February when the ground outside was still frozen. Your grandfather built his from a salvage sash window pulled from a condemned terrace. It cost him nothing. The equivalent heated propagator setup from a garden centre today runs £60 to £120 per season before you buy a single seed packet. Number 21. Rendered lard. In the 1930s, Procter & Gamble's campaign positioning hydrogenated vegetable shortening as cleaner and more modern than animal fat crossed the Atlantic. By 1950, British housewives were being told their grandmother's lard was unhealthy and old-fashioned. The FDA banned trans fats entirely in 2018, after decades of evidence linking hydrogenated oils to heart disease. The fat they replaced, lard from properly reared pigs, contains vitamin D, has a higher smoke point than most cooking oils, and keeps for months in a cool pantry. Your grandmother rendered her lard from the leaf fat of the November pig. Every pie crust, every batch of dripping toast, every tray of roast potatoes came from that crock. We threw away the good fat and paid more for the dangerous one because someone spent money telling us to. Some of the most respected food scientists in the country are now saying your grandmother was right. Number 20. The spring house. If your grandfather farmed near a natural spring, he built over it a low stone structure with cold water channel through a trove. Milk churns, butter crocks, and fresh meat sat in that channel at a constant 10 degrees year-round. No compressor, no electricity, no monthly direct debit. The average British household now spends £35 a month running a refrigerator. His ran on gravity and never broke down. Number 19. The allotment beehive. Your grandfather kept bees in boxes he built from pine boards. He harvested honey in September, left enough for the colony to winter, and sold the surplus in kilner jars from the gate. Most councils now require hive registration, setback distances, and in some boroughs, neighbour consent. Meanwhile, Britain has lost roughly half its wild bee population since the 1950s. 2 hives in a back garden produce enough honey to replace every jar your family buys in a year. Your grandfather managed it in his sleep. Number 18. Home fermentation. Your grandmother fermented everything. Cabbage became sauerkraut with nothing but salt. Cucumbers became pickles. Green beans, beetroot, and turnips went into crocks in October and came out in March still crisp. The process cost nothing. By the 1960s, home fermentation was suddenly dangerous. Botulism became the headline. The processed food industry had every reason to discourage a preservation method that cost pennies. British families now spend an average of £22 a month on condiments and pickles. Your grandmother made a year's supply and called it Tuesday afternoon. Number 17. The root cellar. No electricity. Consistent 4 degrees year-round by digging 8 feet into a north-facing hillside. Your grandmother stored carrots, potatoes, and apples in a hand-dug cellar that kept food stable from October through April at zero energy cost. She packed root vegetables in damp sand and kept apples separate because they off-gas ethylene. Every farm wife knew this. A properly built root cellar maintains produce for 6 to 8 months. Your grandfather never asked permission to store his own food. Number 16. Seed saving. Every autumn your grandfather walked the garden with a paper bag collecting seeds, spread on newspaper, dried, stored in labeled envelopes. The next spring they grew true because they were open-pollinated varieties refined over generations. By 1980, seed companies had begun replacing them with F1 hybrids, producing sterile second-generation seeds. By 2000, a handful of corporations controlled most of the commercial seed supply. Your grandfather never needed a license to grow food from his own harvest. Number 15. Backyard chickens. In 1945, almost every British family with a garden kept hens. Eggs were collected each morning from 8 birds that also ate kitchen scraps, controlled slugs, and produced manure. Post-war zoning gradually made backyard poultry impractical. By 1970, most families had quietly stopped without anyone explicitly telling them to. Eggs from hens allowed to range contain measurably higher omega-3s than commercial eggs. Your grandmother knew her chickens by name, and her egg bill was nothing. Number 14. Sherbal medicine. Your nan kept a garden of medicinal plants her community used for generations. Elderberry, yarrow, plantain applied fresh to splinters, valerian for sleep, chamomile for children's stomach upsets. None of this was magic. All of it has documented mechanisms that modern pharmacology can explain. The British Medical Association spent the early 20th century discrediting botanical medicine. Not because it didn't work, because it couldn't be patented. The NHS spends £1.8 billion a year on prescriptions treating conditions a kitchen garden once prevented. Your grandmother spent nothing. Number 13. The compost bay. British gardeners now spend an estimated £400 million a year on bags of compost and synthetic fertilizer. Your grandfather built a 3-sided bay from salvaged pallets. Every potato peeling, pile of autumn leaves, and bucket of wood ash went into it. By spring, the bottom layer had broken down into rich black earth. He manufactured his own soil from household waste. Today, you pay the council to take your green waste away, then drive to the garden centre to buy it back in a plastic bag for £8. Number 12. The mending basket. A hole in a woolen sock was an evening's work, not a trip to Primark. Your grandmother kept a darning mushroom and a tin of threads. She could reweave a heel so tightly it outlasted the original fabric. The average Briton now throws away 35 items of clothing every year. We spend £1,000 annually replacing clothes designed to fail because we lost the basic skill of a needle and thread. Number 11. The cast iron back boiler. The fire that warmed your grandfather's living room also heated a cast iron water jacket behind the hearth. As long as the room was warm, the bath water was hot, a single, hyper-efficient use of fuel. The shift to gas central heating was pushed aggressively by lobbying groups, heavily subsidized by the energy companies waiting to install your new meter. Now you pay a standing charge just to be connected to the grid, plus an average of £110 a month for a combi boiler that breaks down every 5 years.